What if the biggest games in NFL history were not decided by the players on the field, but by someone, somewhere, who had already determined the outcome before kickoff? What if the touchdown that broke your heart was supposed to happen? What if the penalty flag that changed everything was not a mistake, but a message? What if the greatest league on earth is not as clean as it wants you to believe? Now, the NFL has never been proven to fix a game, let me be clear about that. But the fans see things. They see a kicker who has not missed a single field goal all season suddenly miss the biggest kick of his life. They see a referee overturn a call so obvious that the entire stadium erupts into a riot. They see a pass interference so blatant, so undeniable that every human being watching on the planet sees it, except for the two officials standing 5 feet away. Coincidence? Maybe. Bad luck? Perhaps. But when these moments keep happening in the biggest games, at the most convenient times, benefiting the most marketable outcomes, at some point you have to ask the question, and millions of fans have been asking it for decades. Before we begin, this channel is built on one principle: the truth, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it makes powerful people angry. If you want the real stories behind the NFL, subscribe right now. Hit the bell. And if any moment in this video sends a chill down your spine, drop a super thanks. It goes directly into fueling the content you deserve. Now, let us examine the 10 NFL games that fans believe were fixed. We begin at number 10 with a game that did not just change an outcome, it changed the entire league. September 24th, 2012, Monday Night Football, Green Bay Packers versus Seattle Seahawks. The NFL was using replacement referees because the regular officials were locked out in a labor dispute, and on the final play of the game, Russell Wilson heaved a desperation pass into the end zone. Golden Tate and Packers safety M.D. Jennings both went up for the ball. Jennings came down with it. Interception. Game over. Packers win. Except one official signaled touchdown, another signaled touchback, and after a review that defied every camera angle available, the call stood. Touchdown. Seahawks win 14-12. The football world erupted. Players were furious, analysts were baffled, and fans across the country pointed to one conclusion: the NFL had allowed unqualified officials to determine the outcome of a game because it refused to pay its real referees. Within 48 hours, the labor dispute was settled and the real officials returned. The league essentially admitted, through its actions, that the replacement refs were not capable of officiating at the professional level, but the Packers' loss was never overturned. The result stood, and fans have never forgotten that the NFL chose money over integrity, and a game was decided by officials who had no business being on that field. And if you think that is bad, wait until you hear what happened next, because the officiating controversies only get more suspicious from here. Oakland Raiders leading the Pittsburgh Steelers 7-6 with 22 seconds remaining. Terry Bradshaw throws a desperation pass toward Frenchie Fuqua. Raiders safety Jack Tatum arrives at the same moment, and the ball ricochets backward. Franco Harris scoops it just inches from the ground and runs it in for the game-winning touchdown. Steelers win 13-7. Pandemonium. Except here's the problem. Under the rules in 1972, if the ball touched an offensive player, meaning Fuqua, it could not legally be caught by another offensive player, meaning Harris. The play would only be legal if the ball touched Tatum, the defensive player, last. And after 50 years of replays, freeze frames, and technological analysis, nobody can definitively prove who the ball touched last. The officials huddled for several minutes before confirming the touchdown. Raiders fans have spent half a century insisting the play was illegal, and the NFL has never been able to provide a definitive answer. The greatest play in league history might have been the greatest missed call in league history, and nobody will ever know for certain. Number 8. Bottlegate. Browns vs. Jaguars, December 16, 2001. Cleveland Browns trailing late in the fourth quarter. Quarterback Tim Kutch throws a pass that officials rule a completion, giving Cleveland a critical first down. The Browns rush to the line and run another play, and then the replay official buzzes down and overturns the catch, ruling it incomplete. But because another play had already been snapped, the reversal wiped out everything.
The Browns were pushed backward, the drive was effectively killed, and 73,000 fans in Cleveland erupted. Plastic bottles rained onto the field by the thousands. The officials pulled both teams into the tunnel, play was suspended, and then, reportedly, after a call from the league office, the teams were brought back to finish the remaining seconds. The Jaguars won 15-10. Browns fans have never accepted that reversal. The timing was unprecedented, the process was chaotic, and the idea that a replay review could erase a play that had already occurred felt like the rules were being rewritten in real time to benefit one team. Cleveland has been suspicious of the league ever since, and honestly, can you blame them?
Number 7. And this takes us to the game that changed professional football forever, and the conspiracy theory that has followed it for over 50 years. Super Bowl III, the New York Jets versus the Baltimore Colts. The Colts were 18-point favorites. 18! The AFL was considered a joke compared to the NFL. Nobody gave the Jets a chance. And yet, Joe Namath guaranteed victory, and the Jets won, 16-7. A stunning, historic upset that legitimized the AFL and made the upcoming merger between the two leagues viable. And that is exactly where the conspiracy begins. The merger was being finalized. Billions of dollars were at stake. If the AFL continued to get embarrassed in the Super Bowl, the combined league would be built on an uneven foundation. An AFL victory would solve everything. It would prove the leagues were equal. It would justify the merger. It would protect the investment. Fans who believe this game was influenced point to the timing, the financial stakes, and the sheer improbability of the outcome. Was it fixed? There is zero proof, but the fact that the most financially convenient outcome in merger history happened to occur in the most unlikely upset imaginable is a coincidence that has never stopped being questioned. And that feeling of suspicion, it is about to get much stronger. Number 6. The 1998 Minnesota Vikings, one of the greatest teams in NFL history. 15-1 record, a historically dominant offense led by Randall Cunningham and rookie sensation Randy Moss, and a kicker named Gary Anderson who had done something no kicker in NFL history had ever done. He had not missed a single field goal all season. 35 for 35. Perfect. The most accurate kicking season in the history of professional football. The Vikings were heavy favorites against the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC Championship, and with 2 minutes and 7 seconds remaining, leading by 7 and driving into field goal range, all Minnesota needed was a Gary Anderson field goal to put the game away. 38 yards, a distance Anderson could hit in his sleep, and for the first time all season, at the worst possible moment, in the biggest game of the year, Gary Anderson missed. Wide left. The Falcons drove down and tied the game. They won in overtime. The Vikings, one of the greatest teams ever assembled, were eliminated. Fans have never accepted it, not because Gary Anderson choked, because the first miss of a perfect season came at the single most critical moment of the entire year. The mathematical probability of that timing is almost impossible to calculate, and yet it happened. Some fans call it fate, others call it something far more sinister. Decide for yourself. But the coincidences on this list are only getting harder to ignore. We are entering the top 5 now, and these are not minor controversies. These are the games that fundamentally shattered the trust between fans and the league, a collapse so impossible that an entire fan base still cannot explain it. A championship game where the losing team was being illegally targeted with bounties, a rule so obscure that it changed the course of a dynasty, a Super Bowl where the referee himself later admitted he blew the calls, and a non-call so obvious, so indefensible, that the NFL literally changed its rules because of it. If you are not subscribed, you are about to miss the most important part of this video. Subscribe now. Let us continue. Number 5. And this game defies every law of competitive logic. The Green Bay Packers led the Seahawks 19-7 with 5 minutes remaining in the NFC Championship. Russell Wilson had thrown 4 interceptions. 4! The Seahawks offense had been lifeless for nearly the entire game. Green Bay was going to the Super Bowl. It was over. And then, it was not. Seattle scored 15 points in the final minutes.
They recovered an onside kick, they converted a 2-point conversion, they forced overtime, and they won 28-22. The Packers had a 99.9% win probability with 5 minutes left. 99.9, and they lost. Fans who watched that game live still describe it as the moment they stopped believing football was entirely organic. Because what happened in those final 5 minutes was not just improbable, it was statistically almost impossible. Green Bay did not just lose a lead. They experienced a system failure so complete, so synchronized, that every single thing that needed to go wrong went wrong at exactly the right moment. Coincidence? The numbers say it shouldn't have happened. And yet, it did. Number 4. And this is the game where conspiracy theory met confirmed scandal. The 2009 NFC Championship. Minnesota Vikings versus New Orleans Saints. Brett Favre and the Vikings were on the doorstep of the Super Bowl, and all game long, Favre was hit late, hit high, and hit low with a brutality that went beyond aggressive football. Years later, the Bountygate investigation confirmed that the Saints coaching staff had been running a bounty program, financially rewarding players for injuring opponents. Favre was a primary target. The late hits were not just aggressive, they were incentivized. And with the game tied in the final minutes, Favre threw across his body into traffic. Interception. The Saints won in overtime. Minnesota never touched the ball in the extra period. The Vikings were eliminated. And years later, when the world learned that the Saints had been paying players to hurt opponents during this exact game, the outrage was deafening. This was not just a controversial game. This was a game where one team was confirmed to have been operating an illegal bounty system targeting the opposing quarterback. Fans do not just believe this game was unfair, they know it was. The evidence is in the league's own investigation files.
Number 3. January 19, 2002. AFC Divisional Playoff. Oakland Raiders versus New England Patriots. A snowy night in Foxborough that would change the course of NFL history forever. Raiders leading 13-10 in the fourth quarter. Charles Woodson blitzes Tom Brady and strips the ball. Raiders recover. Game over. Oakland is going to the AFC Championship. And then the referees went to replay, and they invoked a rule so obscure that most fans had never heard of it, the tuck rule. The officials determined that Brady's arm was moving forward in the process of tucking the ball back into his body, which by rule classified the play as an incomplete pass rather than a fumble. The call was overturned. The Patriots kept the ball. Adam Vinatieri kicked a tying field goal through the blizzard. New England won in overtime, and the dynasty was born. The Raiders were devastated. Their coach, John Gruden, their players, their fans, all of them believed they had won that game, and it was stolen from them by a rule that had no business being applied in that situation. The NFL agreed, in a sense. In 2013, the league abolished the tuck rule entirely. They eliminated the very rule that had changed history, and in doing so, they quietly admitted that the rule was flawed. But by then, the Patriots had won 3 Super Bowls. The dynasty was already built, and it was built on a foundation that began with a call that the league itself later decided should never have existed. Number 2. Super Bowl 40. Pittsburgh Steelers versus Seattle Seahawks. And this is the Super Bowl where even the referee admitted the officials got it wrong. Multiple crucial calls went against Seattle throughout the game. A touchdown by Darrell Jackson was nullified by a questionable offensive pass interference penalty. A critical holding call on Sean Locklear erased a key Seahawks play. Ben Roethlisberger's rushing touchdown was ruled a score despite replay evidence suggesting the ball never crossed the goal line. Call after call after call, all going in one direction, Pittsburgh's direction. The Steelers won 21-10, and years later, referee Bill Levy publicly stated that he was sorry for the calls he missed and that they impacted the outcome of the game. A Super Bowl referee apologized for affecting the result. Let that sink in. The man in charge of officiating the biggest game in football admitted that his crew made errors significant enough to change who won. Seahawks fans have never recovered, and the question that lingers to this day is not whether the officials made mistakes. The referee confirmed they did. The question is whether those mistakes were truly accidental, and that question will never be answered. And number 1. The single most egregious, most indefensible, most universally condemned officiating failure in the history of the National Football League.
January 20th, 2019, NFC Championship. New Orleans Saints versus Los Angeles Rams. Saints leading 23-20 with 1 minute and 45 seconds remaining. Third down. Drew Brees throws a pass to Tommy Lee Lewis, and before the ball arrives, Rams cornerback Nickel Roby-Coleman launches into Lewis with a helmet-to-helmet hit that is so early, so blatant, so undeniably illegal that every single person watching, every analyst, every former player, every fan in every living room in America sees it. Pass interference, helmet-to-helmet, 2 penalties. Either one would have given the Saints a first down inside the 5-yard line with the ability to run the clock down and win the game. No flag, nothing. The officials standing feet away from the play saw nothing, called nothing. The Saints were forced to settle for a field goal. The Rams tied the game and won in overtime 26-23. Even the NFL admitted afterward that the penalty should have been called. The league literally changed its rules the following season, adding pass interference to the replay review system specifically because of this play. They changed the rules. That is not an opinion about whether the call was wrong. That is the league itself confirming it. The Saints were robbed of a Super Bowl appearance. Drew Brees, in the final years of his legendary career, was denied his last realistic chance at a championship. An entire city, an entire fan base watched in real time as the most obvious penalty in NFL history was ignored by officials who were standing close enough to touch the players involved. New Orleans has never forgiven the league. The lawsuits that followed, the public outrage, the rule changes, none of it gave the Saints back what was taken from them that day. Was it fixed? The NFL says no. The fans of New Orleans say the evidence is on the tape, and the tape does not lie. Every camera angle shows the same thing, a penalty that was never called, a game that was never won fairly, and a question that will follow the National Football League to its grave. If that was not interference, then what is?
10 games. 10 moments where the outcome felt wrong, where the calls defied logic, where the timing was too convenient, where the coincidences stacked up so high that millions of fans looked at their televisions and whispered the same word. Fixed. Now, the NFL has never been proven to rig a game, and maybe every single moment on this list was exactly what the league says it was: human error, bad luck, the randomness of sport. But here is the thing about trust. Once it cracks, it never fully heals, and every game on this list put another crack in the foundation. I need to hear from you right now. Which game on this list do you believe was the most suspicious? Which one still keeps you up at night? And which games did I miss? Drop a comment. I read every single one, and the debates in this comment section are going to be legendary. Now, here is my ask. If this video made you think, if it challenged what you believed, if it gave you something no other channel has given you, then act on that right now. Subscribe. This channel exists to ask the questions nobody else will. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, share this video with every football fan in your life. Post it everywhere. And if you want to be part of the reason this channel keeps growing, drop a super thanks right now. Every dollar funds the research, the writing, and the relentless pursuit of truth that makes this content possible. You are not just watching a video, you are fueling a movement. Subscribe, share, comment, super thanks. The next video is coming, and I promise you it will shake the foundation even harder. I will see you there.